Thanks everybody for inviting me onto this. I think it's a really good idea to look at what's happened so far and reflect on the various assemblies that have taken place and make sense of where we've got to so far in this sort of wave of deliberative democracy that's taken place over the past few months. So I have been doing quite a bit of work in the borough of Newham. It seems I live just down the road from you, Alessandra. I'm in West Ham. So in my home borough, I've been involved with the local authority since 2018, setting up primarily community assemblies that took place all over the borough. There's been over 40, 50 of them taking place. So community assemblies are a little bit like the people assemblies that take place with XR. And then throughout February, with a participation organisation called Mutual Gain, I've been acting as an associate and helping set up, design the Newham Citizens Assembly on climate change. So yeah, London Borough of Newham, for any of you who know, it's in the east of London. It's, I'd say, a relative sort of central boroughs, and it's quite a young borough as well, and the population is primarily Black, Asian, minority ethnic, so the sort of white population is around about 30%. So the Citizens Assembly we did was selected via sortition, so that meant that we had a demographic representation of the borough in the room. It was selected, but it was done by the Sortition Foundation. Some of you might have heard of that organisation. They did the National Assembly. They've been doing various other assemblies around the UK. And they selected, they did an initial selection of 43 people according to gender, age, geography in the borough, occupation. So occupation is looking at different levels like professional, service occupations, skilled, elementary level, or people not in the workforce. They also selected people according to their concern around climate change. So that was matched against national figures of a recent Ipsos Mori poll that says that, I think it was in 2019, 85% of people in the UK said they're concerned about climate change and 15% said they're not concerned. So we had the same sort of attitudinal mix in the room as that. And also the last criteria was ethnicity. So yeah, we the Newham Assembly was 25.5 hours in total. It consisted of 3 evenings and 1 weekend. And the question that the Assembly was working on was, how can the Council and residents work together to reach the aspiration of being carbon zero by 2050 at the latest? So that question was created by the sort of a collaboration between the council and a stakeholder oversight group. So what often is called an advisory board or advisory group, we called it stakeholder oversight group. It was composed of 5 individuals representing faith networks, community organisations. There was 1 Extinction Rebellion member on the oversight group, a voluntary sector representative, and one academic from the Sustainability Research Institute of the University of East London. So they helped to put together the question, and then to oversee the whole process as well. We also had an independent evaluator from, actually came over from Canada, from University, Queen's University, Ontario. So we had an external academic doing the evaluation. Prior to the assembly, we had a digital democracy exercise where anybody in the borough could go online and put in their statements of what they felt was important, in a very similar question of how do we get to carbon zero by 2050 at the latest. And so we used a platform called Paice. Some of you might have heard of that. It's a famous platform that's been used in Taiwan quite successfully. Basically, people submit a statement and then other people in the borough vote on it. They'll say they agree with it, they disagree, or they're not sure, they don't know. And that way you sort of get a map of how people are thinking about the issue in the borough on a whole variety of statements. So the assembly itself, there was, as in most citizens' assemblies, went through the 3 phases that you usually have. The learning phase, where people listen to expert witnesses and ask questions. Then there's the deliberation phase, where you start to discuss and weigh up pros and cons, trade-offs between different ideas. And then the final stage, which is deciding and recommending and voting. So we went through all of that, all those the sort of traditional stages of a citizens' assembly. But something that I and my colleagues and a couple of other, Liz and Pete also on this call, we're sort of thinking that it should be more than just having facts and figures stuffed into people's brains by various speakers, and that can be a little bit overwhelming. So what we wanted to do in the Newham Assembly, which we added in, was a little bit of creativity as well. So we had one session where the citizens were imagining what they felt Newham should look like in 2050, and what should a carbon-free Newham be like, and to sort of do a bit of visioning and use art and crafts and exercise that different aspect of what it is to be human. And then we also took them through a role-playing exercise as well to try to empathize and look at it from different points of view. Look at this question, you know, not everybody thinks the same way. We can have the activist point of view, we can have people in the council, we could also talk to people who work in, for example, City Airport, which is also based in Newham. So there's all these different points of view, and they may have different perspectives. So we try to help people to empathize and take them through those different perspectives, because I guess the idea of a citizens' assembly in many ways is it's about whole community solutions. It's not about partisan solutions. It's about how we all going to come together, find a shared orientation, find a shared way forward. What else to tell you about this assembly? Yeah, we had a variety of different speakers, 14 different speakers, starting off with sort of what the issue, what climate change is, and what carbon zero is, going through the sort of the facts of climate change. And like Anna mentioned about Camden, the question wasn't about is climate change real or not. The starting assumption was that this is happening, and that humans are causing this. And then basically we went through, there are various speakers that came to speak on different elements of what a council can do. We had one of the local councillors talking about what the council has been doing so far. We also looked at the psychology of climate change. You know, what is it? Why is it difficult to take on board? and looked at other aspects like fair transition, Green New Deal, local action, and putting it in the global context. Then we had, on the weekend, we had various local groups that came to speak as well. Local activist groups, business, local academics, and we also had a written statement submitted by London City Airport as well from their point of view. So yeah, there was a sort of variety of perspectives. Oh, we also had we had a Franciscan monk as well who came to give a sort of faith perspective